Hi, welcome to World of Martial Arts Talk To. Today, I am so excited to talk to Matt Routledge, the director of Tribal, Get Out Alive, his first full movie. I am so excited. I'm here with my son, who's really excited to ask him some real deep, interesting film questions. I'm going to go for the martial arts questions. So we're going to bamboozle poor old Matt into oblivion. And Matt, my son's going to ask you the first. James is going to ask you the first question. And your first question is, James, over to Matt.
I do film studies and I've gathered these questions. And I'd say, what attracted you to direct Tribal?
Oh, good question. Well, first of all, I love martial arts films. You know, horror films I like a lot, but martial arts films is obviously what I've always grown up watching, you know, since the days when I think I was 12 or 13 when I watched Enter the Dragon. As soon as I watched Enter the Dragon, that was it. My life just kind of changed. And I thought, this is what I want to do, whether being a stuntman, director, stunt coordinator. And as the years go by, you kind of fall into the right place. Started off obviously as a stuntman. Then I moved into doing a bit more stunt coordinating and action directing, but obviously I really wanted to direct films. So when I got the opportunity to do Tribal, it was a fantastic opportunity because obviously getting to work with Zara Fithian again, a fantastic martial artist, great actress, very talented. You know, obviously I jumped at the chance. So I've always wanted to do a project particularly with her. So that was one of my main reasons for working on Tribal.
So now into a martial arts question. Suddenly we see in the thing that we see that Zara does this Wing Chun and working on the mukjong or wooden dummy. Whose idea was that? And was Sifu Sam Kwok involved in that at any time?
Yes, he was. Samuel Kwok did the choreography for the Wing Chun wooden dummy scene and worked very closely with Zara to obviously bring that to life. Obviously, it was up to me to pick the camera angles and try and shoot it in the right way. But yeah, it was actually Vic Mark, the producer, and Zara who originally came up with that idea. And I think it's a great idea, you know, because obviously it can push it to other markets. We can obviously got the tick box there for the China market. But also for me, it was, as a director, I was trying to consciously shoot it in a different way. When you see Rumble in the Bronx, you see Jackie Chan do the wooden dummy. It's just one shot, isn't it? And the shot just moves slowly inwards on the wooden dummy to show him just going through a series of very quick techniques. With this, we wanted to shoot it slightly different and obviously get across the stress that Zara's character is going through when she's actually using the wooden dummy. But obviously for me, a Wing Chun student myself, I absolutely love, you know, anything we can do to put Wing Chun in the film or the wooden dummy, that would be fantastic for me.
Yeah. Following on from my other question, what inspired you to direct Tribal?
What inspired me? I think obviously to work with Zara to try and do a martial arts film that could put me a bit more on the map as a director, because I've been doing quite a few short films, but I haven't done a proper feature film really. And to get the opportunity to do this with a cast that was already kind of assembled for me was, you know, a brilliant opportunity. You want to show the world what you can do. And I think it's quite a good time to start trying to break into action and martial arts cinema. Because obviously my influences were, you know, Sammo Hung, Yuen Wu Ping, obviously Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan. All of these people influenced me in wanting to be, you know, a director. So to get the opportunity with Tribal was fantastic.
In the fights, there is quite a lot of fighting in it, and it's well choreographed. You've said that Sam came in to do the mukjong. Who decided, or did you have any input as a director and your passion for martial arts? Did you have any sort of like say in the fighting, or did you have your own fight choreographer?
Yes, I had a lot of say in certain fights. The weapons work was all done by Nick Khan, who was assisted by Chris Jones. So a lot of the weapons stuff he would choreograph, he would show it to me. I would just approve it or say, no, could we just add this one move or this other move because that looks kind of cool. Can we put that in? For the empty hand stuff, it was myself, Thomas Dodd, Zara, and obviously a bit of Nick in there, but it was mainly us three for that one. It was mainly myself, Tom, and Zara to choreograph that. But there was one scene I think you'll see in the film where Zara fights several creatures, let's say, and that was all Nick. He did that one. But obviously, when I watch the scenes, we all want it to be the best it can be. So certain people have their input. They want to add an extra move or an extra bit. And I had an idea on particularly what I wanted to do with Zara's main fight scene at the end. I had an idea, the stages it wanted to go through. It had to go through a stage where she looks obviously like she's losing heavily. And then, without giving too much spoilers away, the comeback routine in terms of choreography. So it kind of mirrors a bit, in a subtle way, the Way of the Dragon fight between Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris. There's a definite subtlety there in taking the influence from the way that fight progressed and the way Bruce learned how to beat Chuck in that particular movie. So the great thing is, even though Tribal's made so many years later, those certain influences can still be apparent to obviously the hardcore martial arts fans, hopefully, when they watch the movie.
For a horror movie, in my opinion, it was very brightly lit, and I was wondering what the reasons were for doing that.
Yes, it was. I think I've seen so many films that are very, very dark. There's quite a few movies out recently. One, I'll use an example because we have the same music composer as the movie Crawl, which was quite a big budget film, came out of Hollywood recently, and that's very dark. But we just wanted to make it a bit clearer where they are and show more of the backgrounds of where they are rather than keeping it too dark. But I think some scenes are very dark, so you could tell the claustrophobic aspect of the film. But yeah, for me, I just wanted to try and shoot it in a different way and, you know, obviously show the tunneling, because I think the tunneling looks particularly nice, the location that we got underground. So it's just a case of trying to show that a bit more to the viewer and not, you know, drown them out a bit too much with all the darkness.
Yeah, getting to Zara, was Zara the first choice for the movie, or was there anybody else in consideration for the movie, or was that your particular, you know, person that you wanted there, or was there other people? Because, you know, in casting, I mean, usually you can cast for a lot of people, and I just wondered if you'd considered anybody else, or it was just Zara.
It was always Zara. I'll explain why. When I got brought on board Tribal, it was practically a fully cast project. They had all the cast in place. So they had Zara in place, Ross O'Hennessy, Rachel Warren, Grayson Matthews. All of the main cast were already in place. Just before we started the film, there was a couple of cast members I brought on board who, when the script was rewritten slightly, I could put those in certain characters in the film. So yeah, I was more of a director for hire on this particular venture, whereas obviously moving forward into, hopefully if I can get another film off the ground, then I definitely want to have more input into the casting process, definitely.
Do you think that the screenwriter, when reading the script, was influenced maybe by Resident Evil or something? Because it shares some similarities. So,
yeah. Well, here's the thing. This is what happened with Tribal. The script was originally written by Vic and Zara, who are the producers of Tribal, and they brought the script to me, and we had quite a long conversation on how to change it to make it better. And there was quite heavy adaptations we had to do in the script to make it better, to bring it more to a fight audience rather than a horror audience. We were trying to mix the two, and it was trying to gauge that balance and get a good balance between the two. Because, you know, if you've got Zara Fithian in a movie, she's got to fight. So, you know, originally I think the fighting was quite limited, whereas obviously when I came on board, I was asking them to, can we put more fights? If so, can we put them here, here, and here? So then I got in touch with Johnny to do the script, and I was kind of pushing him to put certain fights in certain areas. So we knew we could, you know, get a fight every 15, 20 minutes into the script so it can keep the action fans all happy. But yeah, I think it's Zara's and Vic's original idea that Johnny Walker has adapted into this film. So I think he watched a lot of films that was similar to obviously Resident Evil to try and get that feel, that atmosphere of, you know, the whole claustrophobic element into the film, and also keep fight fans happy.
Yeah. A lot of time, and it didn't look as though, and you might be able to explain this on a lower budget. I'm not saying low, I just say lower budget movie. A lot of people, of course, your main stars have to have stunt doubles.
Yes.
Was there any stunt doubles for this, or did all of them have to, because of tight budgets, they had to all do their own stunts in every way?
Good, very good question. Yeah, no, everybody did all their own stunts. So that is one thing maybe we should be telling people on the film. So I'm glad you've asked me. Is yeah, Zara did all her stunts, Ross did all his own stunts, and likewise for the rest of the cast. So it was great to have obviously Nick on board, Chris Jones and Zara to talk through people who felt a bit uncomfortable about doing stunts, because obviously we have Valerie Thomas in the film, who's a really good Indonesian actress, and she had to do some stunts where she had to do a fall. So Zara was kind of trying to work with her on how to do the fall correctly. Obviously we had all the stunts, rigging and padding and all that kind of things, which were all arranged by Rick Manning, who was great to do all of that. So yeah, on this particular film, because of the budget, obviously a lot of the people in the film did their own stunts, but they were able to do their own stunts as well. So that's why we were trying to take care of Valerie in the scenes where she had to do anything that was a bit more demanding.
In Tribal, which scene was, do you think, the hardest to direct, and why?
That's an easy question.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why, because we had a very tough day. There's a scene where, hopefully it doesn't give too many spoilers away, where the Rich Kenning character meets the underground and the creatures in the underground. And it was a huge scene. We had a lot of extras, and we had nowhere near enough time to shoot that scene. So for me, it was very frustrating, because obviously I wanted to shoot the scene more. I wanted to give it more coverage. I wanted to give it more suspense. But unfortunately, on that particular day, it was just about capturing the scene just to get it shot in time, because we had quite heavy time constraints in the venue as well that we were using. So that's sometimes what I think people find it hard to understand with the low budget films, is you compromise by time, and obviously time is money. And if I could have an extra day on that scene, for sure it would have looked so much better. But this is just what you have to go through. Fortunately, in other scenes, we were able to capture them in the right way, and hopefully that comes across on screen.
And there was a scene in there that looked very much like, and you'll know this, what I'm on about. Zara was using some blades, and it looked very much like she was doing the techniques for the Wing Chun butterfly knives. Was that purpose? Was it that scene, or am I just sort of like dreaming in some kind of limelight of seeing Wong Chung Lung using butterfly knives?
I think obviously we must have had a bit of influence there unconsciously for that scene. I think Nick was great with the weapons. He knew exactly what to do with the weapons scene. So we just had to try and create some kind of quick, fluid movements that Zara could pull off. And hopefully when obviously when everybody watches the film, you can see how graceful she is in those movements and how she can pull it off, so well. So obviously great to work with such a talented performer to bring the action to light. And you'll see the way it's been filmed in certain areas. We don't want to cut too much. We don't want to do that chop, edity, 2-second cut thing, you know, with the fights. We want to show the performers doing their stuff. So you'll see the scenes where we've left the camera on them as they go through the choreography, you know, because that's what I would like to do more. I would like to show more of the actions. You know, when you see a Bruce Lee film, you just put the camera on Bruce. That's it. He does the rest. You know.
Yeah.
Even in the 70s, the camera's just on him.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do.
Just to verify that bit, I remember Jeffrey Marder talking about, and Brandon talking about Rapid Fire, where they recreated the cavern scene, just about where, you know, Brandon just stands there and does all the action, you know what I mean? And and you just said it was just a little bit of a, you know, tribute to my dad, you know, kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It's that's what obviously all modern action performers are trying to obviously achieve, is to try and somehow get to the level Bruce Lee was. Of course, that's not going to happen because he was obviously one of the first, and in my mind is obviously still the best. A lot of people will always say that, but you know, for me, it's great to work with the likes of obviously Zara Fithian, because to me, she is like the modern day, a bit like the modern day female Bruce Lee. You know, you're working with people who are today's action stars.
Yeah.
You know, I can't ever go back and work with, you know, the likes of Bruce and what have you. So, you know, for me, it's a great privilege to work with the ones that are breaking through at the moment.
Following on from the hardest scene, which was the most rewarding scene in Tribal?
Most rewarding scene? It's a good question. Well, my favorite scene, hopefully it's not giving anything away, is there's a butcher scene in the film. That's my personal favorite scene, because you've got a really nice blend of action and horror in that scene. And without giving too much away, what the two of the main characters go through in witnessing what happens in the scene is very dramatic. It's very suspenseful. You don't know what's going to happen next. And it's obviously got fighting in there as well as the horror element. So for me, that was my favorite. That was my personal favorite scene. Not an all martial arts scene, but that for me was my favorite scene.
The main kind of and again we're talking about Tom here, and Tom plays sort of like, he's not the bad guy, but he's kind of unruly and kind of stuff like that, and ends up in that position. His fighting skills are terrific. Was he brought on board later on, or where did he come into it all?
The movie Tribal was primarily there as a vehicle for Zara and for Tom. So Tom is one of the main producers on the film as well as Zara. So it was really a film developed to showcase their talents. And Tom, I think his character is great because he has such a great character arc in the film. You'll see, obviously you've watched it already, but when other people watch it, hopefully they'll see the way he goes from, you know, a bit more innocent, bullyish and quiet, to just what you will see he turns into when you watch the film. And I quite like the way his character evolves. You know, he's one of the characters that's very interesting in the film, because obviously you've got your kind of generic leads who are seasoned war veteran fighters, martial artists, but with Tom's character, he has a very good character evolution throughout the film. So I hope people enjoy obviously what happens to his character. And it's great to work with him because obviously he's a, you know, obviously ex-world kickboxing champion himself, and to do any fight scenes with him was very, very easy to do because of obviously he's already got the talent. It's just a case of putting that on screen.
Looking back on Tribal now, which do you feel, which aspects do you feel got the best creativity and originality in there, do you think?
Best creativity. Which scenes do you mean, or just overall?
Just overall, just in
overall.
Which aspects?
For me, it was great to put so much martial arts in the film. That wasn't originally there. It was mainly blade work. and weapons and gritty hand to hand. So although we've kept the blade work and the gritty hand to hand, we've added a lot more martial arts in the film. That was added just when we were partly through production, when we started last year. So for me, that was the most pleasing aspect, that I could get that in the film, because I just thought, if it's going to be one of my first films, it's got to have a huge martial arts element to it. And obviously with Zara being one of the main performers, with Tom being one of the main performers, that's one thing we had to get right and make sure we keep the audience happy in terms of the fighting for those two characters. But there's lots of scenes I love in the film. I really like the opening scene, the way it sets up everything. I like the fact that it takes its time with the build-up in the first 20, 30 minutes and what's going to suddenly happen to the characters. I like that, whereas some, they kind of rush into the horror a bit too quick, rush the audience a bit too quick, whereas I think this has got the build-up nice, and also a really good character ensemble as well, because you've got so many different characters and they all, one's a stress head, one's a bit who thinks he's a bit of a comedian, one's obviously your tough fighting machine. So you've got all of these different characters going on. So yeah, hopefully people will just enjoy it for what it is, which is a really fun movie.
With it being a horror movie, and there's been a lot of, fights and stuff there in there, and we've talked about stunts. Were you lucky to get away with very little injuries, or was there some injuries that might have delayed shooting?
Yeah, I think you're always lucky in a film to get away with no injuries. Fortunately, I think stunts wise, although it's fight heavy, it's not incredibly stunt heavy. So we're not doing what they did in the 80s Jackie movies, where they're throwing somebody, like 3 guys through a glass window or something like that, or they fall from a very high point. You won't see that in the film, but what you will see in the film is no wire work. It's all kept on the ground.
Yeah.
It's all as it should be. Fight's not speeded up. It is what it is. So when you see the film, that is actually what's happening. So we're not using too much camera trickery at all, as you'll see when you see the fights.
Yeah.
So from that point of view, I'm very happy. I'm not a big wire work fan. Sometimes it's important to do it in certain moves, but for me, I prefer to see martial arts as it's meant to be seen.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah.
If you had more finances, I was wondering which areas would you have spent it on? Maybe like CGI or?
I would have made the film longer.
Yeah.
I would have added another 20 minutes to the film. I would have had more character development for certain characters, a bit more background on obviously Zara and Ross's characters. And I would have explained the main character played by Tom, who plays Rich Kenning. I would have had a bit more background on how he knows how to fight, because when you'll see the film, it might come a bit sudden that people suddenly discover, oh, he can fight, and like that, whereas it would have been nice to have a bit more of that build up. In terms of extra budget, obviously more time to shoot the fights, and the action really helps. So yeah, it would have helped the fights as well.
You've mentioned Sam doing the choreography of the Mukjong. Did he do much else? Did he do anything else, or was it just the Mukjong bit?
It was just the Wing Chun bit, I believe, for the film, and I think he might have advised Zara in the odd scene where we were doing some repeater punches, some Wing Chun combo punches.
Yeah.
But I wanted to stay away from the Ip Man movies. I wanted to keep the Wing Chun in the film to be a bit more limited, that Zara's character knows how to use it, but she's also a kickboxer as well, because Zara is a kickboxer first and foremost. So we just wanted to mix those elements up, which is something I like to do in the films I've done previously anyway. I like to mix up different styles. Bruce Lee, Jeet Kune Do is a mixture of different styles of martial arts. So I think that's what we wanted to do in this, whereas obviously if you watch the Ip Man films, it's all primarily just solely focused on Wing Chun. We just wanted to use some of those elements, because as you can see, Zara's very, very fast with her chain punches. So we wanted to obviously get that across to the audience as well, which I think is nice. But it was great to work, obviously, with Samuel Kwok. The Wing Chun dummy scene, I really like that scene. It's a really, really nice scene where it appears in the film. Maybe it takes the audience a bit by surprise, because you're thinking, well, what's this scene doing in the film? But, you know, for me being, you know, a martial artist as well, it's really nice to put a scene like that in the film.
In Tribal, I really liked the way that you introduced and used the drone establishing shot. And I was wondering what your opinion on this was.
Yeah, I love drone footage. I love drone footage. We're very privileged in this day and age to be able to use drone cameras rather than a guy sat outside, you know, sat on the wing of a helicopter holding a camera, you know, to do some wobbly shots. If you look at the movies in the 70s and 80s, all those shots are all very wobbly because they just didn't have the technology. Whereas now we're so fortunate, we've got this amazing technology and we can do all these super smooth drone shots to make the movie look so much bigger budget and slicker. But for me, I only wanted to use the drone to complement the film. I didn't want to overuse the drone, you know. But I really love one of the opening shots in the film over the credits. That was something that I really planned on doing for the film, and I think it's a really nice use of a drone shot. It was quite a tricky shot, obviously, to do, but Ben, who did the drone, did a great job, and obviously it's fantastic to have drone shots in the film because it makes the budget feel so much bigger.
Being a director of a sort of like horror martial arts movie, and hopefully martial arts movie next time, did you have any problem with the cast? You know, sometimes cast can be a pain to work with, and when you're trying to, you've got a vision of taking the script to screen. Did the cast go along easily, or was there sometimes, you know, not heated arguments, but, you know, look, I want this fight scene like this, and I've got to, was there a lot of cooperation, or did you have some difficulties at any time?
I think, no, everybody was very good to work with on this. Everybody was very easygoing. I think in terms of the fights, no, we all agreed that the fight was the fight when we did the previs for the fights. We were all agreeing that that's what we wanted. We checked the video to see if the choreography is how we want it. On some days, we had to cut some of the fight choreography because we didn't have enough time to film it. These are the obviously unfortunate things of working sometimes on a lower budget. But in terms of the cast, yes, some of the cast wanted line changes, which, you know, obviously as long as they run them by me, it's fine, you know, and I think it works for the film. So there was some line changes in the film while we were on set. But no, I think the atmosphere was good. You know, I don't think anyone really fell out during the making of the film. It was all very professional. Everybody knew what we wanted to achieve, you know, and we had a lot of team players, whereas I think obviously you hear stories, people working on bigger budget films, certain people can be difficult to work with, but fortunately on Tribal, we avoided that.
So after Tribal, what kind of movie would you like to direct next or create, maybe?
Good question. Yeah, I mean, for me, it has to be a martial arts film. I would love to direct a full-blown martial arts movie. I see my future firmly being doing martial arts films if I get the opportunities. So I'm hopefully in the very near future, obviously COVID dependent. I would like to do, you know, a proper martial arts film with a much heavier fighting content in the film, but also work with, you know, great actors. Obviously a dream for me to work with such, you know, talents in the film industry, because obviously it's great to have really quality actors in your film, because, you know, it just adds to so much to the quality, to how the film will look and how it's presented. So for me, I'm just kind of looking forward to obviously working with people moving forwards, and obviously hopefully getting another chance to do a martial arts film would be great.
We're talking martial arts film now towards the end now, and this is the last question. So last question is, Dean, we me and my son really enjoyed the movie. We wish you the best. But because we're British, would you consider making more British movies, or would you like to feel as though you branched out and filmed in other locations, or would you like to do locations in Britain and in other countries? What's your preference? What's your passion for that?
Well, obviously I'm English. I'd love to film anything in the United Kingdom. I'll never ever lose that. I will always love to shoot films here. If we can make films work with a story that fits a UK environment, then fantastic. But obviously I'd love to work in the Far East again, because some of my formative years I was based in, in between Hong Kong, Thailand, India. I do like working in tropical countries because it gives you a very different flavor when you watch the film. It gives you this, an atmosphere you can't recreate in the West. But obviously I'd love to do one in America. That would be a dream, but I don't mind where I shoot it. I think every story lends itself to a different place, and I'd be just happy to just keep busy filmmaking, really. But certainly the UK has some fantastic locations, so maybe a bit up in Scotland for the next one. Let's see. So yeah.
Okay, yeah. Matt, thank you very much for your time, and we will hope to see you back on Rumours magazine, Talk To, very, very soon.
Be a pleasure. Thank you so much for both of you. Thank you.